Welcome to the lifestyle of the Pacific Northwest. Do you want me to do it again?
With a lot of enthusiasm.
Welcome to the lifestyle of the Pacific Northwest.
A year ago, my wife Nancy and I visited the town of Vaughn in Washington State, where our friends, the artists Kurt Solmssen and Rebecca Schofield, live and work. Later, I ended up making a series of short films about Kurt's remarkable art.
Hi, we here at Cafe Yarmouth love Kurt Solmssen's paintings.
Kurt and Becky made our 10-day trip out there so fun and interesting that I just have to share some of what we experienced. From bikini'd coffee baristas to Mount Ranier, gay pride parades to paella feasts. This was a vacation to remember. I can't even begin to tell you how beautiful the natural environment was out there. Kurt and Becky's home and studio are right next to the Puget Sound, and they are surrounded by nature. You don't see that every day. I guess these guys are dead, right?
No.
Oh!
Those are alive. These guys can open up a clamshell. And also, we tried to grow oysters in a little box with a wire cover over it. And these guys can ball up into a tiny ball and get through the fence.
So they ate your oysters?
Yeah.
Are they edible?
Yeah, but they have to be a certain size and type. This is way too small.
One day I found a dead crow near Kurt and Becky's home. It made me think of the artist Morris Graves, and I photographed it. There was some black debris near the crow which I didn't recognize until I looked at the photographs on my computer. The black shapes were baby birds. One day, they took us to see Mount Ranier. Is it fun to be a park ranger?
Always!
Do you always have to be at the booth, or do you sometimes get to hike around?
We get to hike around every now and then, some.
Have you ever met Smokey the Bear?
No. That's Forest Service, come on!
Oh, okay, all right, sorry. I grew up in the 1950s when the East Coast was not nearly as developed as it is today. Being in Washington State was like going back in time for me. As we drove into the park, I felt like I was entering an enchanted kingdom, last glimpsed when I was a child.
Watch out! Timber! Oh no.
Solmssen. Mount Ranier has a helpful welcome center. I learned here that if you see a bear, you should try to appear large and scare him away. If this doesn't work and he comes after you, he likely sees you as prey, and you should run.
What would you call this?
Paradise?
Paradise. It's natural splendor. And there's nothing man-made about this beauty here. It's almost July, and it's snow all the way from where we're standing, all the way up. And if we start now, it'll take us a few hours, we'll be up there. Now don't worry, it'll be okay. We'll take our time. And if a storm blows in, we'll just, you know, die, but it's okay.
Now, is it true that there's some Sasquatches around here?
Yes.
But they're friendly usually?
Yeah, they number in the low hundreds. It's only about a 50% chance of seeing one.
Oh no! Wow. After visiting Mount Ranier, we went to see the giant trees that grow in what's known as the Grove of the Patriarchs.
See the nurse log there with the little tiny trees?
It's kind of scary looking a little bit, but lots of nice animals and birds live up there, I think. And it's a very old tree. It might be 1,000 years old. I'd only been joking earlier about Sasquatch, but then I got a remarkable bit of footage that made me a lot more serious about this elusive creature. My camera was oddly out of focus, but it definitely caught a large, upright creature shuffling through the forest. Later, I found some more startling evidence. Yes, from the smell of it, that is definitely not human. I think that's Bigfoot or grizzly. And my bet would be Bigfoot. Our trip to Mount Ranier was over, but we would soon find that in terms of oddness, Sasquatch could not hold a candle to the human residents of our next destination, Seattle.
We started here in Vaughn, and then we drove up here and across here to Bremerton, and then we're going to go all the way over to Seattle.
Departing the vessel. Drivers and passengers, please return to your vehicles at this time.
Right on his head. Phineas is an African gray parrot, Congo. He's a 15-year-old, and I've had him all his life, since before he had feathers, huh, Phineas?
Seattle has all kinds of businesses with prices that are hard to beat. Kurt, being an artist and thus impoverished, went to see a cobbler about repairing the shoes that he has worn since the 4th grade.
I get a free heel repair?
Really?
Like a horseshoe. And then we were off to the highlight of our Seattle visit, the Gay Pride event. I must say, as a reasonably committed heterosexual, I found lots to be inspired by. In this family-centric crowd, there were some large nuns scattered about. I asked one of them what their story was.
The group that I'm in is the Sisters of the Mother House of Washington. Well, our mission is to promulgate universal joy and expiate stigmatic guilt. We also do outreach for safer sex awareness, meth addiction, and also prevention of MRSA staph infections. We do a lot of fundraising. Our group has done fundraisers for Alzheimer's. In a lot of ways, we serve the roles of real nuns in the gay community.
On the way back from Seattle, Kurt and Becky said they were going to throw a paella party for us, and that Kurt and I would have to dig all the clams from their backyard. I was of two minds about this, looking forward to the food and mighty afeared of the hours of backbreaking labor required of me. But as is the case with most of my worries, this fear turned out to be misguided.
Just throw it from there, John. Hurry up. Good throw, John. There was a treaty signed in the 19th century with the tribes that they could have half the fish in the state of Washington, including shellfish. So there was a lot of concern that there wouldn't be any clams left. And look, I just turned over one shovel. How many clams do we have here? One shovel turned over. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. These are nice little steamers. 7, 8, 9.
Kurt and Becky are dear friends, and I am very happy that if their art sales ever slump, they will not go hungry.
And nobody makes paellas like Kurt.
Professional paella maker.
Oh, you've had it before?
Oh yes. It's legendary around
Really?
here. Oh yeah. Take a look at that.
You can't have hunter-gatherer societies over about 50 people because they use up all their resources in an area too fast. They have to move on. There are very few places, this being one of them, where there are exceptions to that. And it's because of the clams and the oysters down here. It acted sort of like agriculture, and they could have large 200, 300 person communities and not eat all the resources.
Thank you, Kurt and Becky, for the wonderful vacation. I vaguely remember you made an offer to Nancy and me to, quote, come back anytime, unquote.
Oh my
goodness.
Oh my God!
When the tide is out, the table is set.
Well, it turns out the company that I work for is being sued for $33 billion, the details of which I won't bore you with. But if things turn out badly in terms of my employment, perhaps Kurt and Becky will let us come out and join them in living off the land in the great Pacific Northwest. A tiny bit more, sir.
All right, this is all that's left. You can have a little bit more. You've already had 18 plates.
The next morning, Kurt drove us to the airport to go home. But first, I had to get my Java. So I used my special dumb tourist permission card to get one last videographic slice of life.
Excuse me.
Oh, I'm sorry.
He's a tourist.
I'm a tourist. Can't do it. Okay, I'm sorry.